I love hockey, and I have finished Big Country Hockey. So Big Country Hockey is technically Hockey Time 3E or Hockey Time 2E revised. There is a Hockey Time 1E and a Hockey Time 2E out there. And I was going to revise, of course, all my time games. Well, as I revise them, I'm renaming them depending on what I do with them. And Big Country Hockey Time 2E revised easily becomes a new game, Big Country Hockey. There are a couple of key things. They're still compatible. They'll still be compatible to Hockey Time 1 or 2 if you wanted to. But those teams are going to be, for your current leagues, are going to have to be remade because you're going to now create players. And those players are going to rate your team's grades. And those grades are going to be matched up in units. And those unit grades are going to match up against another unit. And that's going to give you a game grade. And that game grade is going to be used on the result charts. So this is much more intricate, yet the game stays very quick and simple once things are set. Big Country Hockey now requires a set of D100 dice. So you will be rolling now for any shot on goal. You will make a goalie stop roll, D100 roll. So you will need a set of percentile dice now, which you didn't need before. All you needed were D6s. Now you will need a D100 set of dice. So the game is a little more complicated and a little more fun because now you're going to make stops for the goalies. I recommend 4 different colored D6s for play, but you could use one D6 and just roll it 4 times. You can see how that could make the game longer and a little clumsier. So I recommend you get a white, a red, a blue, and a yellow. And make sure all those colored dice correlate to one of the procedures you roll for every possession. We now abstract power plays and rebounds into the player ratings and into the charts, so we do not worry about rebounds at all. If a shot is stopped or it scores or misses or turnover, whatever, that ends the possession. We don't pursue rebounds. We're just going to assume those happen, but they're not going to be tracked. Also, power plays now, we don't worry about power plays coming up. The chart will indicate whether a shot is a power play shot. So the charts will now just effectively tell you your team is in a power play when you get the shot. Okay. BCH is not a replay game, and I can't stress this enough about all of my games. I make a few simulators that are meant to be very accurate simulators for the sport, and they're meant to be accurate to history if I have rating systems. These games are meant to be fictional career-based games. This is not meant to replicate the NHL of 2016. Not to say you cannot make NHL teams that enjoy this game, but you may find you don't like the percentage and the probabilities of certain results. So my advice is you play Big Country Hockey for what it is. It is its own hockey world, its own hockey league. It might produce lower scoring games than it should. It might produce higher scoring games than it should. It is a career-based game where players improve and leave and etc. So it is not a replay game. It is a career game that uses possession-based gameplay. So you get to play the possessions out of every period between two teams to get the ebb and flow and the fun of a game quickly, but with some detail. And there you have it. BCH features new player and team creation based on player rating values. BCH also features a fictional league, which I have not completed yet. I will release a 10-team fictional league based on the Big Country universe later. I thought I would go ahead and release the game now for those who want to make their own teams and start playing. You don't care about my generic league. You can make your own league, right? Your own teams, your own players. So now the game just launches right into team creation because everything's based on your teams. So first you're going to roll 9 offensive players and you're going to roll 4 defensive players. You're going to use different charts for offense and defense. You're going to get their rating, and then once you've got all 9 players named and rated, you're going to build your lines. Now I did not build these lines by any kind of purposeful optimization or strategy. I did this randomly. So I just plugged in these names and then I rolled randomly. So you're going to see these lines aren't optimized. They're not the best possible lines. But this is an example. So I made Sammy Gilbert and I rolled a 2. He's a 1. I rolled Moreau. I got a 4. He's a 6. I rolled a 6. Got a 4. He's a top guy. And I continued to do this until I got all 9 guys done. Okay. So the skater rating. What does this mean? 0 means this guy's bad. If you're going to have anybody on your ice, on your team that gets on the ice, he's probably going to be an offensive player, right? And I'll explain in my logic why in the Big Country universe this is important. The worst possible player that could be on your team will be a forward, right? he won't be a defenseman. There's no way a GM or a coach in his right mind would ever put a completely incompetent defenseman on the ice. So what this really means, though, this is really his ability abstractly to affect defense. But you're never going to see a defenseman with a 4, and this 1 point represents how well that forward can put puck on goalie. So we're talking the best shooters, the guys that shoot the most. But again, it's abstract. But this guy, Moreau, he's the highest rating you can be for an offensive player. He's an A-rated player. Okay. Once I have my line set, I tally the number 4, 5, 6, 7, and I put it here. And then there's a math formula we're going to do to find out the grade of this line's offense. Okay, and I'm going to do that for every line. Okay, what's a plus? A plus is a player who is particularly defensive, and more importantly, the plus is the abstract representation of him being on the special teams, the power play teams and the penalty killing teams, the shorthanded teams, right? Okay, so when you see a player with a plus, he's going to give your goalie a save percentage bonus because he's going to help your goalie stop shots. There's only one, when you create your teams, there's only one chance of an offensive player having a plus, and that's a 2 player. This can change in the off season. You get in it with a 4 plus, a 1 plus, etc. Okay. So, Monty Garner on my second line, well, I actually think that 2 plus is more important than the 3 because this plus gives my goalie a stop percentage kick. So I would take a 2 over a 3, to be honest with you, anywhere. I want that kick for my goalie, especially if my goalie's what he ends up being, which is pretty bad. Both my goalies are average. Okay, so you can see Monty Garner is, when the puck's on the other side, this son of a gun fights like hell to get it back. He also helps my goalie stop shots. So that's he's a defensive forward. But he also would be on your power play, your penalty killing lines. Okay. All right, and then my third line is Crapola. I got a John Talbot here. This guy would be cut, I can't until the end of the season. Can I replace this guy? Okay, but I do have 2 2s. I do have 2 average guys here. So I could have, again, maximized these lines a little bit, but again, I rolled them randomly. So, yeah, and you're free to change your lines before every game. It's entirely up to you. Okay. All right, so that's offense. I've explained what a 0 means. And I've explained what a plus means here, and I've explained what a 4 means here, so you should have a pretty good idea. Next, we're going to make our defense. And again, defense to me is the most important thing in all of sport. I'm biased, but I don't care. But in my league, in Big Country, there is no way, as I said before, a coach or a GM is going to allow crap at defense. And 1 is crap, right? A 1 is an F, but a 1 is not a 0, right? So a defensive player can never be that bad, but he can also never be a straight up shooter, right? You'll also notice on this chart that you're going to have half of these guys that you roll up could be plus defenders, right? Because obviously defensive players are already more inclined to defense, better defense, but they're also more inclined to be on your power play or your penalty killing lines, right? You want your best defensive guys on those lines. So you got a good chance when you roll up your 4 defensemen that you might end up with quite a few plus players, which is a big deal. Okay. So again, I explained what that means, and I explained how that affects your goalie rating, right? Okay. So you can see my defensive line 1, and remember a plus is worth half a point. So 1, 2, 3 and a half, 4. So my line is 4. I do the equation, and I end up with a B defense. So my defensive line is a B. My second line isn't bad, C. But notice I have no pluses here. So again, I might have wanted to put Martin Means down here. So at least no matter what units on the ice, I get a 5% kick for my goalie. But again, I didn't organize these. I just rolled them randomly. But you can see how I can strategically build a pretty awesome front, a set of lines. Okay. Now that we have all our players, we need to determine which lines and actual grades, etc. So again, that's what I said. You set your lines up, then you do the math. You divide it by 12. It's going to give you a grade, like grading your college term paper, and it's graded on a curve. So this number came out, I think, to 58%, and that means my offense for that line is a D. So up there is where this D came from. Okay? So you can see now how this is now going to matter come game time. Okay? Same with this. I did the math for this line. 4 divided by 7 is a B. It came out, I don't know, whatever it came out, a 60, 70 something maybe. It's a B. So pretty solid defense for this line. Okay, so when all that's done, we are good to go. Those things have been decided now, and always round down. Now we go the final piece, the piece that's really the most important thing. That's your goalie. We're going to name 2 of them, and I'm going to roll them up. And I happen to roll a 3 and a 4, so they're both the same. And I just went ahead and made Rennie Dawson my number 1. I made Cy Jankovic my number 2. They're both 80s. And I know this looks horrific, and it should look horrific, because, again, they're modified by the number of pluses that are on the ice. They can never be higher than 95, no matter what, and they can never be lower than 65. But yes, this looks really bad, but remember, my charts, also, there's a percentage you don't even get a shot. So don't sweat the actual. This is not like the goalie's actual stop rate. This is like the defense giving up a shot, okay? So don't panic about that. Okay. Also, your number 1 goalie will start 95% of all your games, and there are no injuries. So once they're in, they're in. You're good to go. Okay. All right. Each team will have 3 games. Now this is where the game really gets interesting. This is where you could play with your son, your grandfather, your wife, your brother, your buddy. Before the game, you need to build 3 units. Both teams have to build 3 units. This is where you would hide. I would build my unit 1, my unit 2, my unit 3, and I would hide this from my opponent. And I can build those units by putting the lines together. So my first line offense, my first line defense, right? And these scores are going to be matched up against their first line unit to determine my chart number. But also, these 2 units with pluses are going to tell me what my goalie is while they're on the ice. So my goalie's an 80, and this unit happens to have 2 pluses. So my goalie's a 90 when this unit is together. You can see my second unit is really good, and my goalie's a 95. So this unit really should be my first unit. But, again, I'm just matching them up based on what I got here. But imagine this. I know that. My opponent thinks I'm going to put my best possible line here, but I'm not. I put my best possible line here, so my best line will match up against his second unit. Or he's trying to be tricky, and he puts his best unit on unit 3, which would be asinine because there's only a 60% chance it's ever going to be on the ice. This number never changes. Unit 1 is always 1 to 3 on the D6, so 50% of your possessions that show up on the chart will involve Unit 1 against Unit 1. Right? 33% of any possession that could come up for your team is going to involve Unit 2. And again, 16% chance that Unit 3 will ever be on the ice when a possession comes up. Right? And remember, you never see a mix match of units. My Unit 1 will always be against their Unit 1. Unit 2 always against their Unit 2, and Unit 3 always against their Unit 3. So I will never see my 1 against their 3, my 2 against their 1. Okay? So once these are set for the game, you just need to get the grade. So I would match up my unit, my first unit's D offense, against, let's say they're B. Let's say they're a B defense in their unit. So my D versus their B is an F. So I would write up here next to unit 1, F. And I know that I'm going to use F every single time this unit is on the ice when I need to roll a result. F will be their grade. And then I'm going to match up their offensive unit 1 with my line. Let's say they're a C and I'm a B. So they're a C and I'm a B. They're going to be a D. So their line 1 unit would be a D. Right? And you're going to do this for both teams, for all 3 units before you start game. Then you're going to roll to see which goalie starts. 95 and below, your number 1 goalie starts. Get your grade matchups for all the units. Your goalie can never be higher than 95% stop rate, so no matter what bonuses you have, a goalie can never be better than 95 stopper. Lastly, feel free to do your shot allocation charts for your teams. It's all up to you. I'm not going to create, because how would I know how many shots your left winger should be getting? So that's just something you can do, because the charts will not say shot by left winger. They're going to say shot. They're not going to say who shot it. All right, page number 5 is the only one you have to print out to sit down in front of you to play. This is basically all you need in front of you, plus your score sheet and your rosters. Okay, Now, BCS plays just like Hockey Time. However, there are some key differences. As you might have guessed, you must determine which game unit is identified before every chart roll. This means we now need to roll another d6. So we roll 4 d6s with every drop of the dice. I've already talked about this. One is the clock, one is who's in possession, one is the unit, and one is the actual result. Okay? Any shot now means it is a shot on goal, and the goalie now must roll that stop percentage and below to stop the shot, right? The rest are self-explanatory. Shot on goal, auto save. So we just mark down a shot for my team, a save for their goalie. Goal is an automatic goal. Turnover means we just turned it over. Track it if you want to, right? Power play means the power play team was on the ice, got a shot, which means they're a shorthanded, or they're PK, we're PP, right? And there you have it. The only ones now we have to roll to see if the goalie makes the stop are shots. Goals are automatic. SOG saves mean the goalie made the save. There are no rebounds here now, right? Okay. So, the 4 dice. The first dice that's dropped, let's say it's the black die. I roll a 4. Let's say it's the very beginning of the period. It's 20 minutes minus 4. At the 16-minute mark, the following occurs. Die 2 is a blue die, and I roll it, and it's a 2, and it says both Unit 1s are on the ice. How do we know that? Because Unit 1 is always 1 to 3. So Unit 1 is on the ice, and the third die is 50-50. It's my team in control of the puck or their team. Let's say I roll a 2. It's my team. And we already know from my talk a little while ago that my first unit's an F against their defense. So, and the fourth die, let's say, is a 6. So I go over here to F6, shot on goal, but it's saved. So I chart that as a shot. I might roll my allocation to see who on my first unit line got the shot. And then, of course, I mark for their goalie a save. And then we pick up all the dice, and we do it again. We pick up all the dice, and we do it again. We repeat this process through every period and then through the end of the game. Also, the final moments and last shot chance has not changed. What has changed is now when you take that last shot chance, you pull the goalie. You're also going to automatically get, not only do you automatically get possession of the puck, but you're going to get an automatic boost for that final possession because you're one man up. I have a man advantage, okay? So now, let's say I'm an F on that final drive. I roll Unit 1, so I'm an F. I pulled my goalie for this last shot. I would move up to a D. So I got a little better chance. I got a 50-50 chance of getting a shot off now. However, their goalie, let's say, is a 90. I still have to hit the shot. So again, what you're going to see with this, because it's not based on real hockey, you might see lower scoring games. You might see higher scoring games. It's going to be completely dependent on the quality of the teams, right? And of course, random die rolls for this chart. Okay. Last but not least, and this is the most important piece of the new game, the most important piece, obviously, is now you have teams with players and ratings, which you can match up, and it's very interesting. But before the last game of the season, which would include the season, the playoffs, or the cup, or your championship, going into that game, those teams, whatever their roster lineup is set at, not the units, which are here. This is for the game. This is what you use for the game. But their roster lineup, that would be what they're normally set at on their roster sheet. Going into the last game, this is locked. So before the last game, depending on where you're at, whether you're a losing team they're not going to make the playoffs, whether you're a winning team and trying to win the cup or whatever, you're going to want to strategically position all of your players, including your goalie at 1 or 2. You're going to want to position all of these players strategically before the last game of the season. Now, you can build them to win the game. Let's say it's the Stanley Cup and it's the final game of the Cup and you want to win the Cup. You're going to build the rosters. You're going to build the lines and the units to win that game. But whatever you had to do that, that's locked. And it's subject to the off-season charts as such. And you have to roll these in order. And the reason this is important is a smart coach, a smart GM going into this off-season knows that the second line LD can improve by 1 point, right? Well, that's referring to the very last lineup of the last game you played. So if I know going into the last game and I'm a losing team, I have nothing to win, it doesn't matter if I win this game, it's a pointless game, I'm going to put my worst defenseman on the second line left side because if I happen to roll this, my left defenseman will improve a point. So I can manipulate the odds of improving or seeing players, because some players are going to go down, right? I can manipulate by setting that lineup. Obviously, if I'm trying to get into the playoffs, or I'm trying to set a record, or I'm trying to win the cup, I'm going to build my team to win, right? And you're not going to want to go through every team before that final game and do this. But if it was your team in a league, you're going to want to pay attention to these little subtle clues. And you have to go through these in order. So roster turnover happens first. So that same LD that I moved, he could end up leaving the team. Well, now I've got a hole at LD, so I'm going to replace him when I roll anyway. But let's say I do. Let's say my LD, he's the worst player I have, and he ends up leaving the team. So I have to roll up a brand new player to replace him, and I roll up a 1. Okay. And then I happen to roll a 4. Oh, good, he went up to a 2. So before we even get through off season, that's new kid I just got just jumped to a 2, right? Okay. And then the final one is decline. You roll again, it's going to tell you who declines. Well, guess what? The guys that improved cannot decline, right? So you don't have to worry about going up 1 and then losing 1. So here's what happens because it's locked. You're going to want to pay attention to who can lose a point before that last game. Because let's say I have a star. I may not want that 4 guy at the third line left wing, or I might want to put that star at third line left wing because I can afford for him to lose a point, but I don't want my other guys that are 2s to lose a point, right? And you just hope you don't roll a 3 on that final chart. Last but not least, the fourth piece is you get to roll up 1 player completely new, and that's considered a draft, a rookie, or a call-up from the minors, and that player can then be used to replace anybody left on your team at that position. So I say, oh man, I still have a 0 winger. I'm just going to roll up a new winger and dump that other guy. Then you're going to reset all your lines. You're going to redo all the math, and you are ready for the next season. And that is Big Country Hockey, folks. I do hope you enjoy this as much as I've been enjoying the playtests. I haven't been able to playtest it as much because I've been doing so much other stuff. But the math's there. It all works. It's beautiful. Much deeper, much more interesting for career play. If you're a hockey fan and you want to be able to finish games in a matter of minutes, but you want to play lots of games and you want a career mode and you want this kind of diversity in your lineups and how it affects your goalie, etc. And then if you're actually playing with friends, you hide your units before game and then boom, 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 match them up and roll dice. This has got so much more interesting potential now than just the simple Hockey Time game. So, anyway, it is going to be dropped. Matter of fact, we're going to do it right now. I think I'm going to drop it right now. So let's go over here. Let's pull up so everybody can see me drop this for free, available free to all my friends. And, oh, wait, did I already drop it in there? No. Here we go. Let's go over here. Big Country Hockey, baby. Bam. And it should give me a check mark. Boom. There it is. It's in. Let's go down here and make sure it's in there. Big Country Hockey. And Big Country Basketball is going to be similar to this, folks. So for those of you who wanted to see individual players and ratings for basketball, you are going to see it. And there it is. It is in there, and it is pretty, and it's ready to go, and it is free. Go get it.